I've spent the last 10 years of my life avoiding opening banking apps for fear of what the balance is actually going to show me, because 9 times out of 10 it showed me I had no money whatsoever. For full context, when I was 18 years old, I had a full-time job, I had a car, and money was a new thing to me, really. So I'd had part-time jobs before my first full-time job, but 9 times out of 10 this money didn't really cover the things that I was doing, and so I ended up taking other things as well. So I worked as a referee for junior football, as well as the part-time job I had working in shops on the high street. So I would quite often borrow money from my parents in order to go out and socialise and things like that, and that was okay. They were okay with that. But when I started my full-time job, I ended up being paid weekly, and that was based on what that company did at the time. And it meant that every single Thursday I had this big chunk of money come into my bank account, and I wasn't used to it at all. And so essentially every Thursday morning I woke up to this new opportunity to go and spend money on things that I wanted. And it didn't really need much thought either. I had a debit card, I could go and make transactions as soon as I wanted to, and I never had to ask anyone for money again. That, coupled with credit cards, meant that I went and never really wanted anything. As soon as I wanted something, I would be able to make that transaction, whether it was with my money or not, and the thing would be delivered to me. Roll on to today, and I've just moved out of my mum's house and I'm now living with my partner, and this is something that felt absolutely impossible up to about a year ago. And that's because, as I said, when I was 18 I suddenly had all of this money that I could spend, and I had credit cards as well, and so I've built up an awful lot of debt in that time. And so this video is about showing how my mentality has changed in order to make sure that I can do things like move out of my mum's house and try to work towards getting myself out of debt. One thing I want to make clear is I am still on this journey. I haven't got close to the goal that I want to achieve yet, and so I'm making this video to kind of prove that it is possible. There are so many videos on YouTube and podcasts that you can listen to of people who say that they were in loads of debt 20 years ago, and this is how I did it, and you listen to it and you go, oh, that sounds really cool, but there isn't actually many people that are talking about the process while they're still going through it. And so I thought, well, if there's not a video out there already, I might as well make. The first thing that had to change in relation to money was my mentality. I had to go from being that scared little boy that didn't want to open his bank account to being open and honest with the people in my life about money and about the situation I found myself in. And even if it hurt my ego, I had to be okay with saying no, I can't afford to do that right now. That has meant that I've missed out on social times with friends and family. I've missed out on doing fun activities like going go-karting or paintballing, because at that moment in time I didn't have the money, and I would have much preferred to have put the money towards kind of longer term goals of getting out of debt, rather than using a credit card to say, oh no, I can still go and do that. And that was one of the key changes in my behaviour, because ego was having such a big say over what I did with money. So often I would go out with people for drinks at the pub, or we'd go out for dinner or go to a gig, and I would always feel like I can't be that person that doesn't have the money. And so I would always be the first person to say, does anyone want a drink, and go and get the first round. I almost was playing the role of someone that had money, despite the fact that my bank account completely disagreed with that statement. In amongst being honest with people, I had to come to terms with the actual figures and the actual debt that I was in. Now, that's not something I'm prepared to share online. It took me quite a long time to even discuss it with people in my kind of physical life. So like I say, I'm not ready to share that quite yet. But I want to say that the people that I have in my life who I have shared that with have been incredibly supportive. And I think it just went to show that in my head, the situation was far worse than it was in reality. In my head, I thought that if people knew that I was in debt, they would either try to solve the problem outright, which I didn't want either. I knew that in order to come out of this situation, I wanted to do the work. I didn't want someone to just hand me a load of money and say, there you go, problem solved. But also, I thought that some people might walk away from me and not want to spend time with me anymore. And that has not been the case at all. If anything, I've had more support from the people that I've told than I ever deemed would come my way. The biggest realization that I had is I can't change the decisions that I've made in the past. I can't suddenly turn around and say, I don't want that debt anymore, therefore I can just get rid of it. I couldn't do that. But what I could do is start to change my decisions every single day so that who I become in 5 years' time isn't looking back saying, why didn't I just start then? Because that's what I've been doing for the past 10 years is, well, why did I make that purchase a year ago? Why did I spend that much money 2 years ago? Why couldn't I have just made the change then? Yes, it would have been brilliant to have made the change a year ago, but the second best time to make a change is now, because you can actually do it right now. And in amongst that, I was hoping that me in 5 years' time would actually be able to be grateful for the decisions I was making today. And as part of that, I really had to change my mindset around spending. See, for many, many years, I have been in the process of finding something I want to buy, buying it, and then working out where the money is going to come from. And because I quite often couldn't find where the money was going to come from, the credit cards that I used to make the purchase, which were applied for in good faith, I thought, well, if I had a credit card, I could buy all of my petrol on it because I know I'm going to spend that money anyway. So as soon as I use it to pay for petrol, I can put that money away, not spend it, and then when the credit card bill comes, I can pay it in full. Obviously, based on the conversation so far, you can tell that that wasn't the case at all. I quite often just saw the credit card money be spent and then go, oh, well, I also have this bunch of money here and spend that as well. So part of the reason for my long-standing debt is because of compounding and the fact that because I never paid it off, it just grew and grew and grew. And so I had to reverse engineer and I had to go back and say, from now on, everything that I want to spend money on, the money has to be assigned before I spend it, not sometime after when I can try and find it. In the process of trying to work out my finances, I found the book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich. This is by Ramit Sethi, and in that he suggests an app called YNAB Budget, or YNAB for short. In YNAB, you start with 0. So you go in and you allocate your categories. So you go in and you put in categories for all of the things that you spend money on. And then you allocate money to those things. So you could say, I need to spend £100 a month on fuel. You then allocate £100 a month to fuel so that the money is there when you come to make the purchase. Now, I won't lie to you, the first time that I started using YNAB Budget, I scrapped it after about 3 weeks. And the reason was because I was still in the same mindset of spend, spend, spend without assigning the money first. I'd reach the end of each week and I'd go back onto the app and see what I'd spent my money on, realize that I didn't have the money to do it, get scared, close the app, never open it again. This year, I reopened the app, started afresh, and decided that what I needed to do was give myself time. I gave myself 1 month. 1 month where I had to track every single transaction without any judgment, making sure that my categories were as accurate as possible, ready to be analysed at the end of that month. This was critical because I was spending so much money, but I didn't really understand where it was going at the end of each week or the end of each month. A prime example was I was going to a shop to buy food for my lunches, but then also spending money at McDonald's or KFC but I was also spending money at McDonald's and KFC for my lunch because the food that I'd bought at the beginning of the week, I just left at home. Suddenly there was this big pot of money that I could reclaim back because I was able to meal prep. But it was only by doing the analysis that I could see, hold on a second, I've been spending 3 or 4 times the amount of money on lunches than food I'm actually eating, because some food is being wasted, and ultimately that's not money I had. So now my behavior is I meal prep my lunches. Every Sunday I make my lunches for the week. Some get frozen, some go in the fridge, and then each morning I just take what I need, pack it up and go to work. This means that the cost of one lunch before now pretty much covers the cost for all of my lunches in 1 week. That's a hell of a saving, especially when you put it across multiple months or a year. The next thing was to see where I was spending money that could have been predicted, but I wasn't spending any time thinking about. These are referred to in YNAB Budget and their community as true expenses. These are things that you can foresee coming, but you don't know when they're going to happen. These are things like car repairs, birthday presents, Christmas presents, and car insurance renewals. Since I was 17 and I was able to drive, I've always said it would be really great to pay my car insurance as a one-time fee rather than paying for it monthly, because then for the rest of the year I'm not paying extra for the interest for the monthly payments, and also it means that I can start to save a little bit more, and by having those savings I can earn interest myself rather than paying someone else. For all of these things, all of these true expenses, you don't necessarily know when they're coming. Birthday presents and Christmas presents are fairly obvious and can be planned in, but car repairs, nobody plans for their car to break down. So when is that money needed by? This is one of the most revolutionary things that I'd learned in this whole process. In the past, I would spend the money that I had, not put any away for car repairs or similar true expenses. And then when something like that did come about, my only option was to use a credit card. Whereas now, I allocate the money ahead of time. I have a target each month to hit so that I have a pool of money available for when something goes wrong. Some people call this a rainy day fund. And while I completely understand the need for a rainy day fund for some people, that just didn't work for me. For me, it didn't seem right to have this big lump of money that I didn't really understand what it was for. Whereas having a lump of money where I could say there's £120 in there that's for car repairs and there's £200 in there for birthday presents, means that when those things come along, it's a lot easier to take the money back and use it rather than saying, oh well, I'm not sure this is enough of an emergency. Rather than saying, well, I'm not sure if this is enough of an emergency and I don't think I should be taking it right now. I have to say that true expenses is one of those things that I didn't truly understand, but is one of the reasons I'm in as much debt as I am. Because every birthday, every Christmas, every Mother's and Father's Day, I would use a credit card to pay for those presents because I simply didn't have the cash available. But then I would never pay it off. And so it just grew and grew and grew. And I would buy presents that far exceeded what I should actually be putting away as a budget, because I would leave things late and just go, oh, well, that seems okay, and put a credit card towards it. I'm very happy to say that this Father's Day, I was able to use the pot of money that I'd put aside for Father's Day to buy the gift outright and a card without needing to touch a credit card, and without there being any other bills that were being taken from. I was still able to make all of the other payments that I was supposed to be making, and yet the money was still there. This was such a proud moment for me, and it seems like such a small thing. And what's really good with YNAB is even if you do have to do a car repair where you don't have the full amount of money away in the car repairs category, you're able to take it from other things like birthday presents. If you can see that you haven't got another birthday for 3 months and you've got this big lump sum of money, you could say, okay, well, I'll take it from there for now, but set myself a reminder to reallocate those funds at the end of the month. In the YNAB community, this is known as rolling with the punches. I hear you asking, how have I done this? Well, don't get me wrong, like I said, I'm nowhere near where I actually want to be, but I would like to share with you how I've got this far on my journey. As I said before, I'm not prepared to share my figures yet, but I am prepared to show you my budget and how I set that up through YNAB. Here we have my YNAB. I've hidden all of the balances and all of the figures from you, but you can see how my categories are set up and how I budget, and I will explain more as we go through. So this first screen, you can see all of my categories. I've got some YNAB admin, tracking and holding, and this is essentially where money sits if I don't know exactly what I'm doing with it yet. So I have an overdrafts one, which is to cover me. So at the moment, I'm currently using some overdrafts and I kind of dip in and out of those. If you're using YNAB while still being in overdrafts, the numbers can kind of look a bit funny. So I've had to make an overdrafts account that makes it look like I have more money than I do. And then essentially this overdrafts category here is what I then assign money to in order to get out of those overdrafts progressively. And I've managed to halve the amount of overdrafts that I'm using currently, which is really positive. Next month, so YNAB works on a month-by-month basis. So as you can see at the moment, I'm in July, and then we'll kind of go into August on the 1st of August. So although you can skip ahead and you can allocate money into the next month, sometimes it's easier to just assign it to one category. And then when you get to the 1st of the next month, release the money from that category and then start to kind of divvy it out as needed. I've then got my relationship summit, which is money. So me and my partner, we have a monthly meeting that we call the relationship summit, where we talk about finances, bills, how we think we've been kind of communicating with each other, whether we've been on enough dates, just trying to kind of put some intentionality behind conversations so we don't start taking each other for granted and things like that. This is the category that I use if we have any money that needs to be discussed, essentially. So recently we received a gift from someone in the form of money. And so currently the only thing that's in that category is that amount of money, because we need to decide how we want to use that. And so that will come in our next meeting. Then I have my debt payback categories, and so I've got kind of all of the things that I'm spending money on in order to get out of debt, including money that I borrowed from my mum, and I'm kind of paying that back as well. But I've also got kind of PayPal, Barclaycard, I've got some car finance, and then a credit card with Lloyds as well. Credit card payments, this is a slightly different group. So this is credit cards that I am actively using and paying off in full each month. So these credit cards, this debt payback, they are cards that I'm no longer using to make purchases. I'm only taking money off the balance each month. And so I want a category where I can just assign money to it and ship it off. Whereas the credit card payments categories here, these are made by YNAB. So if you attach a credit card to YNAB, as you can see on the left hand side here, I've got the two cards here that relate to these two categories. The way that it works is you allocate the money, or you assign the money to a category. So for my example at the beginning, fuel, you would assign money to fuel. Then when you go to make a purchase, if I went to a petrol station and I went to buy fuel and I decided this time I'm going to use my NatWest credit card, when I make that transaction, I put in YNAB that I've spent X amount of money on fuel using my credit card. At that point, YNAB moves the money from the fuel category and puts it on the credit card. That way, I know when the credit card needs paying, the money is there because it's already been assigned. Hopefully that's not too complicated. It took me a little while to work it out, but it completely makes sense to me now. This is what I was talking about, where my mindset had to shift from find the thing you want, pay for it, then work out where the money's going to come from, to find out where the money's going to come from, find the thing you want, buy it if the money's there. I've then got monthly subscriptions, so Adobe for Photoshop and Premiere, iCloud storage, Google storage, my gym membership and my Spotify subscription. I've then got bills. These are things that I cannot live without. So the monthly subscriptions, and I've got letters at the beginning of these categories. These relate to I Will Teach You to Be Rich and the conscious spending plan that Ramit Sethi talks about in his book. So in the conscious spending plan, you have fixed costs and you have guilt-free spending. Fixed costs are things that you cannot live without. You have to spend the money. It's not really up for discussion. You can try and cut pounds off here and there, but you can't just get rid of the bill entirely. Guilt-free spending is things that are completely discretionary. If you didn't need it, you could get rid of it. So my monthly subscriptions, none of these things I need. Out of all of them, the one that I would argue the most is the gym. I could go out and do running instead, but for my mental health, I need some form of fitness. And so I would argue that out of all of those things, the gym is the most important. But in my bills, these are things I cannot not pay. So I've got my TV license, I've got my car tax and service plan, my phone bill, my car insurance, council tax, home related bills, so rent, water, fuel, as we discussed before. And then I've also got insurance renewal in there. So for the first time this year, I am hoping to be able to pay my insurance renewal outright and not need to take out 12 monthly payments. In order to do that, I've set myself a goal that by the 14th of January 2027, I will have the amount of money that I think my insurance is going to be. And so I'm putting money away each month in order to do that. And as you can see here, I'm currently on track. My other discretionary subscriptions are here, and they are Readwise, YouTube, and Netflix. Again, completely discretionary. If I needed to get rid of them, I could. I've then got frequent spending, again in the guilt-free spending category. So I've got hobbies and sports. So this is anything outside of the gym that I want to do. So recently me and my partner have been going and playing paddle. I play cricket. Hobbies could be, I've recently passed my amateur radio exam, and so the money kind of went into that because that was a hobby. I've got dates, so things where me and my partner are going out, just the two of us, and we're intentionally using that time for us. That's where that money goes. I've got eating out family and eating out solo. So eating out family is, they're both quite self-explanatory. Eating out family, where we're going to a restaurant or going for dinner, where it's not just me, it's with my partner and some friends, or with my parents or something like that. The family thing is the looser part. It's more so I can see how much money I'm spending on myself for food versus spending money as part of like a social activity. As you can see, eating out solo, I have spent nothing this month on that, which for the 26th of July, which is when I'm currently recording this, that is incredible. To have gone 26 days without spending any money on like McDonald's, KFC, Subway, anything like that, is phenomenal for me. Yeah, that's a massive change in comparison to even me from 6 months ago, let alone 2 years. I've then got my true expenses, which is what we discussed before, which is car maintenance or repairs, clothing, fun money, which is like, fun money is kind of a catch-all for me where there isn't already a category, it kind of goes in there. Haircuts, because I can predict those. Household goods, so loo roll, cleaning products, that kind of thing. Miscellaneous stuff, another kind of catch-all. Personal care, so toiletries, deodorant, shampoo, that kind of thing, where it's for me, whereas the household goods, like loo roll or toilet roll, is for the house as a whole and for other people to use. The personal care is just for me. Poker, up until recently, I've been playing in a monthly poker match, and so the money that was being used for that was being allocated there. There's not been one for a little while, so that's been fine. Reimbursements is where I would put any money where my full-time job, if I have to go out and I have to buy food on my own card, but it's going to be expensed, I put it in there because it's technically not my it's not my spending. Eventually the money is going to come in from the company to repay that. And so effectively at the end of each month, reimbursement should be at zero. Tech stuff / replacement. So I've got a computer, I've got cameras and stuff like that. So if there's anything that needs doing for those, that's where that money goes. And then I've got my yearly subscription. So as well as monthly, I've got some yearly stuff. So I've got my password manager, my domain, you need a budget, you have to pay for. Although there is like a 34-day free trial, so go and check that out. I'll put the link in the description. My OneDrive, Obsidian, which is what I use for all of my note taking and script writing, and another domain there. And then I have my goals, which are like birthdays, presents, Christmas presents, Father's Day, Mother's Day, any holidays, Valentine's gifts and Valentine's weekends. So I can make sure I'm putting that money away all the time. And then more recently, I've been putting money away towards a home deposit. And so I've got that in there as well. Now, that's a very quick rundown of my categories. I'm not doing like a full, this is how you use YNAB in this video, but one thing I've found incredibly useful is you can make these views up here. Now the idea of YNAB is that it doesn't matter how many bank accounts you have, you don't need to be moving money between them in order to make your payments. So I have quite a few. You can see down here I have like an everyday account, a bills account, a credit payments account, and then I've got cash and some savings and ISAs and stuff like that. The idea of YNAB is all of that money gets combined together and then you assign it so that you don't have to say, okay, well, I'm putting £20 towards my car repairs. Let me put that £20 in a different bank account so that I don't spend it, that kind of thing. But what I've been doing more recently is I've made this savings account view, which lets me see everything that isn't immediate spending. So where I'm putting money away each month, but it's not necessarily going to get spent from, I can see when the balances are all there, I can see that available, the figure that would be here, I then put into a savings account because the savings account earns far more interest than any of my current accounts. So if I can put that money aside and put it into a savings account, when I need it, I can very quickly withdraw it and kind of use it. But if it's away and earning interest and money and stuff like that, then it's far better than just sitting in a current account where the interest rate is rubbish at the moment. So that's a very quick rundown of my categories in YNAB. One of the biggest changes I've made in my life since using YNAB is now I don't need to look at my bank. I know I said at the beginning that I never used to anyway because I was scared of it, but now I have no reason to look at my bank account. YNAB shows me how much money I have available. If I have money that comes in and I don't assign it straight away, it sits in a ready to assign category. What that means is if I then see something and I can say, oh, well, I want to go and buy that and it's £10. If I've got £10 in ready to assign and I've got no reason to have assigned that money to something else, so if all of my other categories are already assigned money and I have £10 left over, I can just go and buy it and I don't need to think about it. But if that thing is £10 and I don't have any money available, I then need to make the decision of, am I going to take it from something else or am I going to hold on until I get some more money to then buy the thing? Ultimately, it's about making the decision what you want to prioritize. If I want to prioritize buying some new shoes or taking my partner out on a date, I'm able to do that ahead of time and say, I'm going to take money from this category in order to do this thing, rather than just going and spending and then going, I don't know where all of this money is supposed to be coming from. YNAB has become my money app. I check it every day. And I've gone from wishing for the next payday so that I had some money in my bank to wishing for the next payday so I can put some money into YNAB and assign it to all my different categories. I actually love that process of saying, this is the amount of money I've got. How can I make that money work for me? As I said earlier, this isn't a YNAB how-to guide. It's also not a sponsored video by YNAB. This is just me sharing where I am on my journey currently and how I've got there. I really hope it's been helpful for you. If you would like to see more detail of how I use YNAB and go into more of a how-to, then please let me know. There are plenty of videos on the YNAB YouTube channel and they show you every single detail of how to use the app. But if you want someone to go through it in specific detail, please put some questions in the comments and I will go through that. If there's anything from this video that's rang true to you or you want to ask further questions about, please also put those in the comments. As well as I Will Teach You to Be Rich, I've got a bookshelf full of books about finance topics and I've read through all of them once or twice and none of them ever really stuck until I started using YNAB, until I kind of had my mindset shift. So if there's anything that you want to ask, please do, and I will try to give you my honest opinion on whether a particular tip is worthwhile, whether there's a trick out there for achieving what you want to achieve. And as I said before, there is a free trial for YNAB. I will put the link to that in the description below. But as I said, this is not a sponsored video in any way. I know that there are tons of money apps and budgeting apps out there. It's just that this is the one that worked for me. So if it doesn't work for you, that's completely understandable. But they do offer that 34-day free trial, which lets you use it for over a month before you have to make a decision. And the best part, because they are a money app and they know that people are using it to try and get out of debt, you don't have to associate a credit account or a credit card to your account. So you can use the free trial without any concerns about you forgetting about it and them taking the money at the end, because it's not until after the free trial that you then have to put a credit card in if you want to carry on using it. That's the last thing I'm going to say. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've taken something instructive from it. If you have enjoyed it, please like and please comment in the box down below, and I will see you in a future video.